Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and it's time for another edition of Daily Hour of Devastation spoilers. First off, big shout out to all of you. We hit our 100,000 subscriber today on the YouTube channel, and that's because all of you are so awesome. So huge thank you for helping us get to this goal. I definitely appreciate it. It is amazing. Anyway, let's get on to Hour of Devastation spoilers. And today we don't have a ton of different cards to talk about, but we do have a handful of super sweet cards. Starting off with my favorite card, I think, from the entire set, and that is Overwhelming Splendor. The white mythic, it's 1,000,000 mana, or actually 8, but it's humility that only targets your opponent. So it's a curse, you get to curse your opponent. All of their creatures lose all abilities and are 1/1s, and they can't activate abilities unless they're mana abilities, so like Birds of Paradise, tapping lands, or loyalty abilities, so planeswalkers. This card is just so insane. It is so sweet. I'm so excited because humility is its own special kind of miserable, and a new generation of players will get to learn the horrifying power of humility. It's such an annoying card, but I love it so much. If you like locking people out of games and just making your opponent not have fun playing Magic, Overwhelming Splendor is going to be at the top of the list in Standard. I don't think it'll be oppressive by any means. It actually might not really even see that much play outside of very specific decks. It's super powerful, but 8 mana kind of naturally keeps it in check. It's actually twice as expensive as humility itself, which is 4 mana, but I think that it's going to be super sweet, and the ability to just kind of lock your opponent out of the game with one card. It deals with basically all creatures and a lot of other stuff too, thanks to the second half of it. And unlike humility proper, it doesn't impact you, so you still get your big creatures that you can attack with and kill your opponent with. So it's gonna win most games from pretty much any situation. Unless your opponent has a board full of planeswalkers or has gone super wide with creatures, this should stabilize you at pretty much any point in the game. The downside is it doesn't have as sweet of art as humility. What is going on in humility? I have no idea. I love the old absurd art, but I'm super excited for this card. So first off, in Standard, like I said, I don't know how great it'll be. I'm more excited for it in Commander, and also in Modern Against the Odds style decks, because we have things like Bitterheart Witch, which when it dies, we just put a curse on the battlefield from our library. We have Curse of Misfortunes, which lets us tutor curses out of our library. So this is a big piece. Like, Curse of Misfortunes is a super sweet card, but there haven't been enough curses in the game to be able to really build a deck around it, but that might be changing. And I'm not saying this is going to be a good deck, but you can build a curse deck now with this, and we have Cruel Reality and some more new curses from Amonkhet Block. So I'm super excited for it for that. I also think there's a chance that Overwhelming Splendor sees a bit of Modern play because of Enduring Ideal. And Enduring Ideal has benefited a ton from Hour of Devastation. Not only does it get Overwhelming Splendor, which it's important to note, humility is not legal in Modern. This is the only humility type effect that we have in Modern, and Enduring Ideal doesn't really care about the cost of enchantments because it tutors them out of your library, and it doesn't matter if it's 1 mana or 20 mana. So we can search out Overwhelming Splendor, so I expect it to be a one of there. Plus, Enduring Ideal got better thanks to Solemnity, which forms a hard lock with Phyrexian Unlife, so there's a ton of new toys for Enchantment Prison / Enduring Ideal, Ghostly Prisons, and Spheres of Safety, and Solemnities, and Overwhelming Splendor. So I'm super excited for like mono white Enchantment Prison / Enduring Ideal in Modern, in large part because of the new cards from Hour of Devastation, but especially Overwhelming Splendor and Solemnity. Next up, we have Izzet Eternal, which is one of the sweetest creature type cards from Hour of Devastation. A zombie crocodile demon all in one, and the card itself is really interesting. So it's a 3-drop, and it's super above the curve as a 5/5. It even has a flick to make it a little bit challenging for the opponent to block it. The downside is whenever your opponent casts a spell, you get a -1/-1 counter on it, so it's possible you're going to play this, your opponent casts some stuff, and it just slowly eats away its power and toughness, and it dies to the counters. Although if you can get in a hit with it, it does remove all the counters. So I think the easiest comparison to this is probably Plague Belcher, at least as far as standard cards go. It's a above-the-curve 3-drop with a big drawback, even in the zombie tribe. Is Ammit Eternal as good as Plague Belcher? I'm not really sure. However, we do have one super awesome synergy, and we talked a little bit ago on Brewer's Minute about how Hapatra, Vizier of Poisons, was one of the sleepers from Amonkhet, and I think Ammit Eternal is the card that can push Hapatra into being a real deck. I'm so excited for this synergy because they're on curve, so you can Hapatra turn 2, Ammit Eternal turn 3, and then whenever your opponent casts a spell, you get a -1/-1 counter on Ammit Eternal, but that's actually an upside rather than a downside, because when that happens, you're getting Death Touch Snakes again and again, and Death Touch Snakes are awesome. They take down big creatures, they're hard to block, they're just so powerful, and you're doing all this for free by playing 2 pretty much on-curve cards, and if you can figure out a way to get in a hit or 2 with Ammit Eternal, you reset this process, which means the more spells your opponent casts, the more counters go on the Ammit Eternal, the more snakes you get. And we even have like Grinded Us and the Scorpion God, which can potentially help support Hapatra even further. So I'm super excited about Ammit Eternal in this one specific deck with Hapatra, because it seems insane there. On the other hand, I don't know if it'll see play anywhere else. If you look at the Zombie Tribe, which would be the other natural home for Ammit Eternal, the problem is, it's pretty far down the rankings of 3-drops. Lord of the Accursed and Diagraph Colossus are kind of the standards for the zombie deck, and then I think Plague Belcher in zombies might actually be ahead of it as well, at least with like Relentless Dead. You get some weird value here and there, you drain your opponent out, so I think it's far down the line of 3-drops, but maybe after rotation. I mean, it's good news that we're getting more zombies in the format, because zombies loses a couple big cards at rotation, Crypt Breaker, it loses Diagraph Colossus, so maybe Ammit Eternal can fill in the gap there in some interesting zombie-centric brew. And the other thing, and this is super janky, but it gives us the possibility of going against the odds Crocodile Tribal in Standard. We got Metallic Mimic, Baleful Ammit, Crocodile the Crossings. The curve's not horrible. I mean, it's ultra jank, Crocodile Tribal, but it's really cool that the possibility exists. You can build like casual budget Crocodile deck for Standard these days. Next on our list, we get Refuse to Cooperate, another Aftermath card, and this one is actually pretty spicy. Top half deals damage to a spell's controller equal to the spell's converted mana cost. Bottom half copies the instant or sorcery and you get to choose new copies for it. So first off, it seems to work really well both with and against Torrential Gearhulk. You can flash it back, deal more damage, or flash it back to copy a spell, or you can play this targeting a Torrential Gearhulk and 6 your opponent out of nowhere. So there's some weird like control mirror breaking applications here. As far as dealing a bunch of damage, I'm not sure you really play it for that half. In some matchups, it can be awesome. Your opponent casts a Pull for Eternity for 10 mana and just dies to Refuse to Cooperate. Ulamog, not really a big part of the format right now. Nissa's Renewal. If your opponent's casting huge things, Refuse gets much better. On the other hand, the Cooperate part is really sweet. In a counter war, it acts like a cancel, because you can copy your opponent's counter spell and change the target to the original counter spell of your opponent's to win the counter war from your graveyard. You can also copy something like Pull from Tomorrow to draw a ton of cards. You can dredge it into your graveyard with Golgari Thug. So I think this is actually one of the most powerful Aftermath cards we've seen print, because both halves are instant, which is something that isn't true about most of the Aftermath cards. And in Standard, I mean, you're going to get value out of the back half. Even just copying Unlicensed Disintegration to kill one of your opponent's creatures, Allay Bare the Heart to duress your opponent, of course Pull from Tomorrow's like we said. So there are ways to get value there. If blue-red control is a thing, I could imagine this showing up because it's so sweet with Torrential Gearhulk. And if the deck is really important and heavily played, I imagine it moves up the rankings because it's super good in control mirrors. Up next, we have Champion of Wits, which is a pretty interesting blue creature. The body's not great, but when it enters the battlefield, you get to draw cards equal to its power, and then discard 2 cards, if you decide to draw. You can always choose not to draw, you don't discard anything, you just get a 2/1. So you got some flexibility there. It also has Eternalize. Eternalize is super expensive, but it comes back in as a 4/4, which means Champion of Wits is basically a careful study on a body on the front half, and that makes it reasonable, especially if you're a deck that can abuse the graveyard. I don't think you just play this in a random blue deck because you're not really generating card advantage with the front half, but if you have graveyard synergies, it gets much better. And then Careful Consideration is basically the Eternalize, and Careful Consideration is super strong, and it doesn't even come along with a body. Yes, 7 mana is a lot, but in a late game, drawing 4 and discarding 2 is a huge swing, and it's going to greatly improve your odds of winning. So I think that this most likely fits in some sort of weird Aftermath tribal deck. It could go in some weird Delirium deck, but I think you really need some sort of graveyard synergy to make Champion of Wits worth it, and then you could do some really cool things, especially since you can discard additional copies to the first copy and then Eternalize them, and then you're getting a big boost of card advantage and a 4/4 body left behind. Like, the Eternalize of this is actually really strong. Finally, our last card of the day, we get a new zombie, Unraveling Mummy, and this card's only an uncommon. It's pretty fun. I like what it does. It seems like a card that we'll see play in casual zombie decks, but in Standard, there's 2 big problems. Number 1, zombies are mono black at this point. The black-white version still sees play, but you're not going to shift from mono black to black-white based on Unraveling Mummy. It's fun, it's fairly powerful, it's really slow and mana intensive, but it's not going to make you switch from mono black to black-white. The other problem is, like we talked about with our Crocodile Demon zombie, it's kind of far down the 3-drop zombie rankings. Lord of the Accursed, we got Diregraph Colossus, we have the Crocodiles, we have all those cards. So this is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5th maybe in the zombie rankings. So I think this is a fun casual card. Play it in your fun zombie tribal decks, and I think it'll be awesome for that, but I can't imagine it really breaking into Standard. So anyway, those are our daily Hour of Devastation spoilers for today. So what do you think? Are you excited to have Humility back in Standard? Are you going to build Curse deck? How good is Hapatra now with Amit Eternal in the format? What about Refuse to Cooperate? Is that just a commander card where copying spells is super sweet and powerful, or can it break into Standard? Is there any chance Unraveling Mummy can force its way into zombies in Standard or Champion of Wits? Can it build a discard tribal Aftermath Eternalized deck? Is it important for that? Let me know in the comments. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and again, huge thanks for helping us hit the 100K subs. That's so amazing of all of you. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, help us out by clicking that like button down below. And to keep up on all the latest and greatest, click that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit that bell icon to get alerts whenever we have new videos. And if you want to, check out some of our other sweet videos here and here.